every story appears ordinary until you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
Hello and welcome. This is CoreTV Primetime News, reaching you live from our Lagos studios. I am Abosedi Omowi. Our top stories tonight. Many thanks for joining us. Now to the news in full. We're beginning with a scorecard of President Muhammadu Buhari in the last 1 year. Reactions have continued to trail the performance of President Muhammadu Buhari since assuming office in May last year. Full deregulation of the downstream sector, Treasury single account, and merger of federal ministries are some of the significant policies of the current administration. State House correspondent Abiola Oluwole in the special report examines the performance of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration in the last 365 days. His report.
Assuming office on May 29th last year, after the first attempt, President Muhammadu Buhari was quick to spell out the agenda of his administration immediately after the inauguration. Merging of the federal ministries and the introduction of the single treasury account are some of the first decisions taken by the President Buhari administration. Afterwards, the president ordered the release of a bailout fund to enable state government pay the backlog of civil servants' salaries. Another major feature of the current administration is the prosecution of those fingered in the alleged $2 billion arms deal, coupled with Nnamdi Kanu, who is agitating for the secession of Republic of Biafra. Sustaining the war against the insurgents is another result of the President Buhari-led administration. The safe rescue of Amina Ali, one of the abducted over 200 Chibok school girls, according to the presidency, is a clear indication of the success in the war against terror.
Rest assured that this administration will continue to do all it can to rescue the remaining Chibok girls who are still in Boko Haram's captivity. Amina's rescue gives us new hope.
But as government claims success over the Boko Haram insurgents, activities of the X-Men and the Niger Delta Avengers pose security threats in parts of the country. The eventual signing of the 2016 budget on May 6th by President Buhari ended the crisis surrounding the physical document. The price modulation approach of the current administration in the downstream sector of the oil industry led to issues surrounding the petrol subsidy, thus increasing the pump price of petrol from 87 to 145 naira.
The meeting reviewed the current fuel scarcity and supply difficulties in the country, the exorbitant prices being paid by Nigerians for the product, and these prices currently range on the average from 150 naira to about 250 naira per litre countrywide.
But according to government, palliatives that will cushion the effect of the hike is already in the 2016 budget. As the Buhari of Shibaju administration commences its second year in office, analysts are calling on government to pay more attention to the economy as a way of liberating Nigerians from the current economic challenges. Abiola Oluwole, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Now, few hours to Democracy Day, as President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration will clock 1 year in office, Nigerians, especially people of Kwara State, are urging the federal government to build social amenities for the citizenry. Although lauding the president's fight against corruption and improved security, they lament the poor economic state of the nation.
Personally, I think it will be too early for us to actually judge the performance of Mr. President. We must run away from the fact that President Buhari came in at one of the most critical and challenging periods in our national life. Though, if you look at the economy, the security situation, the time he came in, you will give the, Mr. President a pass mark in the aspect of security. But in terms of fighting corruption and economy, I think that Mr. President needs to do more in ensuring that people really convinced about his ability to deliver on the promises.
I think we can give him a pass mark. If we are to look at how he actually came into power, things were already getting bad before he came on board. So with that in mind, we can say he has done incredibly well.
In Plateau State, artisans are lamenting the shortage of electricity supply in the state. The situation, they say, has been worsened by the fuel scarcity. Speaking with our correspondent in Jos, the Plateau State capital, most of the residents describe the situation as a business killer. The report is presented from our studios.
This is the staccato sound of generosity that Nigeria has found itself in not meeting citizens' electricity need, which has put over 10,000 megawatts, but can barely generate steadily 2,000 megawatts in a month. The situation has worsened at Apata, Busa, Buji, Laranto, Tudunwada, Zamangada, to mention but a few, who have been put in darkness for days. Electricity consumers, especially owners of small businesses, are growing over the unstable power supply of the new electricity tariff.
And then they bring too much below. Upon the two, see buy for 1,003, they use it on our business, go still pay. Have no pay, they will still cut our lights. If they flash and within 30 minutes, they will collect them. 5 hours, no see anything, or sugar they spoil for free.
Because if they give you work, if you collect the work, you give them date and time that you're supposed to finish up the work. So because of there's no light, the customer will come to complain. If there's not taking, you guys will start insulting each other.
According to the public relations officer, Jos Electricity Distribution Company, the low power supply being experienced lately is caused largely by challenges with gas supply, the generators, as well as vandalization of unpatriotic citizens. She says Jos office usually requires about 250 megawatts, now gets less than 100 megawatts to service Plateau, Benue, and Bauchi states.
It's a national problem which affects all the states. All the discourse are included from the allocation we receive from the national grid is low.
On the areas in Jos thrown into total darkness.
There's an accident where a big lorry with load affected our wires. But presently, we have communicated with those in charge.
Though with huge investment in nation's power sector, the sector is still far away from its destination because the key factors that determines its progress are yet to be fixed or reviewed.
In other reports, militant group Niger Delta Avengers has blown up Nembe 1, 2 and 3 gas and crude trunk line that link Bras and Boni, making it the third consecutive attacks on all facilities in the region. The group announced its latest assault Saturday morning via its Twitter handle. The tweet reads, and I quote, at about 2:15 a.m. on Saturday, the Niger Delta Avengers blew up Nembe 1, 2 and 3 Bras to Boni trunk line belonging to Adrip and Shell. The group also reiterated its resolve to wreak more havoc by tweeting something big is about to happen. The Avengers has launched several attacks on oil and gas infrastructure since February 2016, demanding a sovereign nation of the Niger Delta people, claiming its aim is to cripple Nigeria's economy while demanding the secession of the Niger Delta region. And in the street move, experts on militancy are calling on President Muhammadu Buhari to look beyond the Niger Delta region if he intends to yield results against the ongoing pipeline bombing in the oil-rich region by the faceless group called Niger Delta Avengers. In an exclusive interview, experts believe the intentions of the perpetrators has no connection with militancy, as the current amnesty program initiated by former late President Umar Yar'Adua has not failed in its structure. Akiobakaye brings us more.
The amnesty program introduced by former President Umar Musa Yar'Adua has been able to restore calm in the region, following the uprising by the Movement for the Emancipation of Niger Delta. With recent threats by the Niger Delta Avengers in the region and the group's structured social media awareness campaign, recent developments have led to deep concerns for Nigerians as the Avengers have successfully carried out pipeline bombings on oil facilities in the region, leading to a significant loss in production of crude oil in the country.
Renewed insurgency and pipeline vandalization in the Niger Delta have drastically reduced national crude oil production to 1.65 million barrels per day against the 2.2 million barrels per day planned for in the 2016 budget.
Furthermore, there are concerns that the country's security agencies are failing in their responsibilities.
I believe that we should look at the issues the way they are. This is purely a failure of security in the region, and the place to place the blame is on the desk of the security agencies.
It is an indication that such a vicious cycle will continue as long as the government is caving in to the demands, avaricious demand now, not altruistic demand of those who are perpetrating this evil.
Although the federal government has ordered every security presence in the region, it is believed that there is a significant level of external influence.
These persons behind this could have some kind of external backing. So it shouldn't narrow its options just to the Niger Delta as it is. Let it cast its intelligence gathering net wide enough. It might be able to know those behind this.
It portends grave danger. So Nigeria is very, very sick to the extent that we can be destroying ourselves for the sake of trying to become prominent.
With the group adamant for its voice to be heard, and the federal government insisting on a total shakedown of the Avengers, one can only hope that the back of the camel will not eventually be shattered into pieces. Akiobakaye, CoreTV News, Lagos.
State Governor Samuel Otom says the state amnesty program is recording success at reducing the level of criminality in the state. Speaking at a media interactive session in Markadi, the state capital, the governor says critics are not being realistic in saying the program is not yielding desired results. According to the governor, the fact that other states are adopting the program shows how successful the strategy is at reducing pockets of criminal activities in the state. The program has received 600 legally acquired weapons from about 800 militants who are currently enrolled in the Amnesty Reorientation Program. The governor has promised to recover illegal arms still in circulation in the state. Still on security, the Nigerian Air Force has again been lauded for its ability to maintain the fitness and combat readiness of its officers and men. The Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Solomon Delong, also says the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport will always support the activities of the Air Force. Correspondent Kozim Kasali tells us more in this report.
These are officers and men of the Nigerian Air Force on the annual 10-kilometer road walk and jog put together by the force to test the fitness and combat readiness of its officers and men. Obviously delighted and enjoying the atmosphere, some of the participants took to singing to show their enthusiasm for the road walk. Special guest of honor and Minister of Youth and Sport, Solomon Dalo, represented by Ademola Are, Director of Grassroots Sports Development in the ministry, says the ministry will continue to support the activities of the Air Force.
There's going to be
inter-secondary schools competitions among the schools in the Air Force. Apart from this, we have zonal offices in Nigeria in the 6 geographical zones where our zonal coordinators interface with the states, with the local governments and other stakeholders.
He added that keeping fit is a part of everyday living and not just a requirement for members of the armed forces.
It is evident in what we saw today that with this level of preparedness, Nigeria can hope for better activities, better performances in international sports meets and also in the protection of our lives and properties of Nigerians.
The 10-kilometer walk and jog took off from the Mogadishu barracks and ended at the Niger barracks, both within the FCT. Cousin Kasali, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The Army has conducted a special training on counter-terrorism operations for officers and recruits ahead of their graduation from the Nigerian Army Depot, Zaria, and Command College, Georgie. Over 2,000 recruits from the Nigerian Army Depot, Zaria, took part in the exercise, which is part of efforts by the Nigerian military to expose the young soldiers to conventional ways of fighting terrorism in the Northeast. Addressing the cadets at the end of the exercise, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukara Burutai, says the training has become necessary due to the emerging security challenges, which requires effective training of troops in the art of counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency operations. The Army Chief, who expressed satisfaction with the performance of the troops, adds that most of them would be deployed to the northeast and other troubled parts of the country to fight the Boko Haram group and other related crimes. You're watching CoreTV Primetime News. Still ahead, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS Parliament, has called on member states to step up efforts to ensure the realization of the integration of the sub-region. Details of these and other report in just a moment. Just stay with us.
You know, Angela, that's a very difficult question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
Angela, that's a great question.
Great question, Angela.
Angela, that is a very great question. That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah, very good question.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
That's an interesting question.
This is an interesting question you pose.
60 Minutes with Angela. Gain answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News, broadcasting live from our Lagos studios. Let's take another look at our top stars. Well, our top stories, all the news and information can be found on our social media platforms. Facebook.com/CoreTV News. On our Twitter handle @CoreTV NewsNG. And on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoreTV. Leave a space news. The Economic Community of West African States, Parliament, has called on member states to step up efforts to ensure the realization of the integration of the sub-region. The Speaker of the Parliament, Mustafa Sis-Lo, in an interview with newsmen at the end of the 2016 First Ordinary Session of the 4th Legislature of the Parliament in Abuja, says member states need to make more efforts to speed up the integration process in order to promote social and economic development in the sub-region. He commends the level of collaboration and cooperation between the ECOWAS institutions and reassures that the cooperation will put in place measures that will facilitate the realization of the ECOWAS vision. ECOWAS was founded on May the 28th, 1975, with the signing of the Treaty of Lagos and was established with a mission to promote economic integration across the sub-region. In election matters, the Nasarawa State Commissioner of Police, Lawal Shehu, has confirmed that hoodlums snatched 5 ballot boxes in the Saturday, May the 28th by-elections in the state. Shehu says INEC officials reported the snatching of ballot boxes containing electoral materials in Unit 003, 004, 005, 006, and 008 at Ugwara Ward of Toto local government area of the state. He adds that he has directed his men to ensure the recovery of the boxes and arrest of culprits. This is even as the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, has cautioned the Independent National Electoral Commission to resist every temptation to rig the by-elections, as it accuses the ruling All Progressives Congress of mounting severe pressure on INEC officials in the state to manipulate the process. Nasarawa Toto is one of the biggest federal constituencies in the state and is strategic for all the political parties. It consists of 2 local government areas, 27 electoral wards, 256 polling units, and a total of 207,448 registered voters. The constituency is made up of 5 ethnic groups: Afo, Bagi, Agatu, Hausa Fulani, and Basa. In other news, Counsel to Olisa Mechu, the embattled former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Ben Nwosu, has described as a hoax a recent petition to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for the anti-graft agency to invite and probe ex-President Goodluck Jonathan on issues relating to the ongoing trial of Metu. Nwosu, in a statement on Saturday, notes that the said Ugochukwu has links with the EFCC and had appeared on behalf of the commission while representing its former chairman, Ibrahim Lamode, at a hearing in the National Assembly last year, but says the claim that the petition is on behalf of a former member of Enugu State House of Assembly is false and has such no individual ever served in that legislative house. He observes that it is therefore obvious that the sole intention of this petition is to distort Metu's defense, which has so far been honestly and sincerely presented before the courts. Nwosu adds that his team supports the present fight against corruption, and which is needed at this time of the country's development, but cautions that it should not be used by some persons as a ploy to settle personal scores. In other reports, former Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Raymond Omasheye, has asked the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos to grant him bail pending the determination of his appeal against his conviction. Justice Rita Ophelia Jumagobia of the same court had on May the 20th sentenced him to 5 years imprisonment and dismissed him from public service for awarding contracts above threshold while in office. Omasheye, who is challenging the verdict, is hoping the court will grant him bail pending the determination of his appeal before the Court of Appeal sitting in Lagos. Omasheye is further contending that he is a father of 4 children, one of whom is very ill and suffers from severe medical conditions of epilepsy. And now, Bayelsa State Governor Sarioke Dixon has assured the chairman, caretaker committee of the People's Democratic Party, Ahmed Makarfi, that all PDP governors are behind him. At a court visit, Dixon believes Makarfi is a good party leader who will be the agent for the rebirth of the party. However, Makarfi says the PDP is only on sabbatical at the national level and in Kaduna State, and if the party is to forge ahead, party members need to forgive one another. In Kano State, the governor Abdullahi Ganduje has appointed Usman as the secretary to the state government, replacing Rabiu Bichi, who was removed by the governor. Ganduje has also approved the appointment of 7 new permanent secretaries. Similarly, the governor has approved the immediate redeployment of 6 permanent secretaries to other ministries. In a statement signed by the Kano State Head of Service, Muhammad Naya, the appointment and redeployment are with immediate effect, while handing and taking over processes should be completed within 1 week. And in education, students from the Bayelsa State-owned Niger Delta University have protested the indefinite closure of the university following the inability of the state governor, Seriake Dixon, to pay backlog of workers' salaries. The students under the aegis of the Niger Delta Visionary Movement also criticized other student bodies such as the Student Union Government of Niger Delta University, the National Union of Bayelsa State Students, and the National Union of Izon Ebe Students, describing them as puppets. The students have also threatened to march naked with books and forms across the states and beyond, occupying Creek Haven and the East-West Road if the Bayelsa State Government, IYC, and other stakeholders fail to give a positive response within 1 week. In a statement signed by the spokesman of the association, Wisdom Adike, they say lingering strike and government attitude towards resolving the situation, noting that the strike has increased hardship, made students to sit idle at home and lose focus on their academic pursuit, as well as prolong their academic programs, thereby causing youth restiveness and society unrest. The group also urges all students to embrace peace and calmness as they promise to use all available non-violent means to end the strike and return to school. The Federal Ministry of Science and Technology has developed a pesticide agent that is very effective against the tomato pest tuta absoluta, which has recently ravaged tomato farms in Nigeria and has been of great concern to the nation. The Minister of Science and Technology, Ogbonaya Onu, made this disclosure in Abuja when he received in audience a delegation from Kids Fest. According to the minister, an agency under his ministry, the National Institute for Chemical Technology, Zaria, developed the pesticide agent using natural resources available in the country. Onu further opines that the pesticide is a ready solution to the rampaging pests and there is no reason whatsoever to import a solution. In other news, media practitioners have been urged to use their influence and reach to enhance the image of Nigeria and to present the right perspective to issues happening in the country, with a view to attracting the respect of visitors and admiration of citizens. Victoria Solomon in this report tells us more.
Nigeria is a country many would love to visit in a bid to experience its people, see interesting locations, interact with diverse cultures, and explore economic opportunities. Tourists are, however, often skeptical due to negative perceptions. Stories about Nigeria, written largely by Nigerian media, to a great extent influence what foreigners think of the country. On the long run, the nation's image is a product of the impressions created by certain people. A public affairs commentator believes that Nigeria needs a global media appeal in telling its stories.
Don't have, and it's a shame, and I've been writing about this, the continent doesn't have a truly global brand.
He further says the media cannot stand alone but needs the help of the private sector as well as the government.
And you, the media, cannot do it alone. It has to be a collaboration, private sector, government, and, build a truly global brand.
The media industry is also admonished to project Nigeria's positive image beyond its failings.
Nigerian media especially, to sell the right stories. The dividend will be enjoyed by all of us, because that means there will be more money, more professionalism, better healthcare, better roads, and a better quality of life for everybody. So the media has a duty to ensure that they keep on pushing the positive side of Nigeria, not the negative. It's not bad to report negative, but focus on the positive.
It is hoped that the media can find a balance between reporting issues as they do and portraying the nation in a good light to the appreciation those at home and abroad.
Well, today is the last Saturday of the month of May. They set aside for environmental sanitation. Residents of Plateau State have been enjoined to observe sanitation days for the numerous benefits. The call is coming from managers of the Ministries of Environment and Health, who attribute the poor sanitation in the state to the reason diseases easily spread whenever there is an outbreak. Our Plateau State correspondent has details. According to the general manager of the Plateau State Environmental and Sanitation Agency, PEPSA, every citizen is expected to observe the sit-at-home order of the state every last Saturday of the month. He decries the conduct of many residents of the state, especially the security personnel who flout the sit-at-home role of sanitation days.
Plea to the general public and other security personnel is that we are the people that are maintaining law and order. We should live by example.
The member representing Irigwe-Rukuba State constituency in Plateau State House of Assembly blames the sanitation agency for the poor observance of the day in the state, and it says it has led to dirty streets and clogged up drainages in and around the state. He calls on residents to endeavor to sit at home and clean their surroundings on such days.
Every end of the month, there's this sanitation, and therefore every person, all the public should be aware that sanitation is a key and that everybody must obey.
The Sit-at-Home Sanitation Day, observed on the last Saturday of every month, is yet to have a positive impact on the hygiene of Plateau State. To other matters, worried by the incessant cases of early marriages all over the country, some stakeholders in Plateau State are raising their voices against speaking and the act of giving out children in marriage before they attain the age of 18. A child's rights activist, Omar Rimi, says the society can no longer stand at arms akimbo while its young and productive girls are sent out to non-consensual unions. Our Plateau State correspondent again has more.
According to rights activists, child marriage should be a thing of the past in the 21st century due to the damages it does to the girls bodily and psychologically. She calls on the government not to only enact laws against it, but to ensure the functionality of such laws.
The Haki project focuses on three major rights. That is the right to land, the right to free and consensual marriage, and sexual and reproductive rights.
Also lending his voice against early marriage, the immediate past Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly says the 7th Assembly enacted the state law against early marriage just to ensure that the male and female youth are protected against such social vices.
It was going to improve the living of even the male and the female as far as gender is concerned. Now, that was why we passed it into law, and the government assented to it without query, and that I'm sure it will help the people of Plateau State.
Just like other parts of northern Nigeria, early marriages are still rampant in Plateau State, and with the mobilization of the society against the unwholesomeness of this practice, more enlightenment and conscious effort by all and sundry are ways of putting an end to such harmful practice against children.
Just watching CoreTV Primetime News, still ahead in reports from outside Nigeria. More than 40 people, most of them children, have been injured by lightning strikes in a football match in Germany. Details after this break. Do join us again.
CoreTV News now live on all Androids.
Welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
Download CoreTV News app from your Play Store. Click on the menu to see all our top stories from politics, sports, business, foreign news and live TV to watch us live on your mobile.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
You can also click on video to see all our YouTube videos. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Glad to have you back. Now to report from outside Nigeria. More than 40 people, most of them children, have been injured by lightning strikes at a park in Paris and a football match in Germany. Lightning struck a birthday party in Parc Monceau in Paris, injuring 11 people, mostly children. 4 victims are in a life-threatening condition. They were struck after seeking shelter under a tree. Lightning also hit a children's football match in Hopstead 10, leaving 35 people injured, including adults. Torrential rain also halted play at the French Open as defending champion Serena Williams was about to start a match against Kristina Mladenovic. Heavy fighting has broken out in northern Syria as the Islamic State and the Levant, also known as ISIS group, tries to capture the rebel-held town of Maraya near the Turkish border. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says IS fighters attacked Maraya early on Saturday with tanks and car bombs after a surprise offensive in the area on Thursday. The area between the city of Aleppo and the Turkish border is split between IS rebel and government-controlled zones, just as the United Nations fears for thousands of civilians trapped in the fighting. Maraya has long been a bastion for non-jihadist rebel forces who have been fighting President Bashar al-Assad in Syria's 5-year conflict. A nationwide but often violated ceasefire between rebels and government forces brokered by the U.S. and Russia in February does not include jihadist groups such as the so-called Islamic State. Several people have been arrested for rioting and assaulting police as two rebel groups clashed over race and immigration in Melbourne. Australian police had intervened using pepper spray to break up clashes between the groups. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull says Australia's multicultural society is still a work in progress. Victoria State Police has condemned the behavior of groups of demonstrators during the rallies in the suburb of Coburg. Racism, immigration and the fear of Islamist extremism have become important issues in the run-up to parliamentary elections to be held in July. And in other reports from outside Nigeria, Venezuela's opposition leaders and top government officials are holding talks in the Dominican Republic to lay the groundwork for a potential dialogue to defuse a political standoff and a deepening economic crisis. The OPEC nation is suffering a severe recession due to low oil prices and a collapsing socialist economic model. President Nicolas Maduro is locked in a standoff with Congress after the opposition won a sweeping legislative majority last year. International agencies, including the United Nations and a group of 7 industrial powers known as the G7, have pressed the two sides to hold talks amid chronic shortages of food and medicine and electricity rationing. However, opposition leaders who are seeking a referendum to recall President Maduro have been deeply skeptical of initiating such talks. Let's now bring you some sports reports.
Power style, and that's what he delivered.
In sports at this time, the World Health Organization has rejected a call to move or postpone the 2016 Rio Olympic Games over the Zika outbreak. It says this would not significantly alter the spread of the virus, which is linked to serious birth defects. More than 100 leading scientists had in an open letter noted that new findings about Zika, failure of the mosquito eradication program in Brazil, and the country's weakened health system are reasons that make it unethical for the Games to go ahead, and are also calling on the World Health Body to revisit its Zika guidance. The International Olympic Committee has, however, responded by saying it sees no reason to delay or move the Games because of the mosquito-borne disease. Zika broke out in Brazil a year ago, but now more than 60 countries and territories have continuing transmission. Tottenham Hotspur have reached a deal to play their Champions League home games at Wembley Stadium next season. The Premier League club also has the option to play all home league and cup matches, as well as any European games at the National Stadium during the 2017-2018 campaign. Spurs are currently constructing a £400 million stadium next to their existing White Hart Lane ground. Tottenham finished third place in the Premier League to qualify for the group stages of next season's Champions League. Now, Sebastian Vettel has defeated Lewis Hamilton in final practice at the Monaco Grand Prix. Ferrari's Vettel was 0.018 seconds quicker than Mercedes' Hamilton in a session that ended with few drivers showing their true speed. Mercedes' Nico Rosberg came third ahead of Red Bull's Daniel Ricciardo and 18-year-old Max Verstappen. Vettel did his final qualifying simulation run earlier than anyone else, while Hamilton looked on course to beat the Ferrari's time, only to be held up by Toro Rosso's Daniel Kvyat in the Rascasse hairpin towards the end of the lap. In other sports stories, the Russian Olympic Committee says 8 Russian athletes have failed drug tests in the retesting of samples from the London 2012 Olympics. The athletes competed in 3 sports but will not be named until their B samples have been analyzed. 31 athletes, 14 from Russia, failed tests when 454 samples from the 2008 Games in Beijing retested. Russia has already been banned from international athletics competition by the sports world governing body after a World Anti-Doping Agency investigation revealed systematic doping among its athletes. The International Olympic Committee says the reanalysis program is ongoing, with the possibility of more results in the weeks to come. Well, it's gladdening to know that the final of the European Champions League between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid is still on and will be over in a very few minutes. You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News. Let's take another look at top stories even as we end the news tonight. Well, that is it on CoreTV Primetime News today. Many thanks for being a part of it. On behalf of everyone here, have a very splendid night rest and a wonderful weekend. I am Abosedi Obowi.